Hello there and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to talk about follower dungeons in patch 10.2.5. This is a new type of dungeon that they're adding that you can complete dungeons with AI NPCs. It's a pretty interesting feature and it's something we've seen in other games, and now we're finally getting it in World of Warcraft. So in this video we're going to talk about everything you need to know about these follower dungeons. They're very cool. But before we jump into all of that, I just want to shout out my Twitch, twitch.tv/MrGM. If you want to see me stream World of Warcraft, Dragonflight PTR, and more, we're over on twitch.tv/MrGM every single day. Right, so yes, follower dungeons are coming in patch 10.2.5. Last week we had the reveal of patch 10.2.5, and we had pretty much no idea what was coming in that patch, apart from dynamic flight everywhere. But the big surprise of the patch 10.2.5 reveal was a new feature called follower dungeons. So what are follower dungeons? So follower dungeons are a new type of dungeon which are coming to the game in patch 10.2.5. The way that this works is when you enter a follower dungeon, any of the roles that haven't been filled by players will be filled by AI NPCs. So for example, if you're a DPS and your friend is a tank and you queue up for a follower dungeon, once you get into that dungeon, the healer and two DPS roles will be taken by AI NPCs. But this system is designed for 1 to 4 players, so you can actually go solo if you like, or bring up to 4 players into it. Now these are normal mode dungeons which are available from level 60 to 70, so you can actually level through them. You won't be able to do heroic or mythic or anything like that. This is simply just normal mode. This is also not a replacement for normal mode dungeons. You can still do them regularly if you like. This is just an extra option if you'd like to do them with AI NPCs. Now the dungeons available for this are the original 8 dungeons from Dragonflight. That is the Ruby Life Pools, the Knockout Offensive, Brackenhide Hollow, Halls of Infusion, the Algafar Academy, Neltheris, the Azure Vault, and Alderman Legacy of Tyr. Now you can queue specifically for one dungeon if you like, or you can choose all of them to pick at random. There's no like extra bonus for completing a dungeon like you do with the random dungeon finder, so it's not that amazing for leveling, but if you don't want to deal with people, this is definitely the option for you. The kind of main point of the system just seems to be a really good way of letting players learn new roles, or learn the dungeons, or just kind of play very casually inside normal dungeons. Most high-level players probably won't use this beyond like getting transmog or trying to get a mount or something like that, because obviously it makes it a lot easier than having to go into a normal mode and try and solo it if you've got some NPCs helping you out. But for the most part, yes, this is kind of a training dungeon of sorts. I did it today on the PTR just to kind of learn healing, which was really nice. So I could definitely see some uses for this for sure, and no doubt we'll probably see this continue to be used in the War Within and beyond. So let's talk about what happens once your dungeon pops. Now obviously the queue is instant because it's queuing with NPCs, so that's always really handy. So as of the first PTR build, this is the composition of your group. So the tank will be a protection paladin, the healer will be a restoration druid, the DPS will be a fire mage, another one of the DPS will be an elemental shaman, and the other DPS will be a Beastmaster Hunter, and you might actually recognize some of these NPC names from Exile's Reach actually. Now obviously depending on your character's role, you will take one of these positions. So if you're a marksman hunter like myself, I'm just in a group with a mage, shaman, druid, and paladin. Obviously the more people you bring in different roles, the more the NPC characters will be shifted out, and the real life players that you've brought in will take that role. Now, if you're running the solo or are the party leader in a follower dungeon, you will see a new extra action button as you enter the dungeon. This is the Dungeon Assistance button. Now, this can actually be placed on the bar as well if you'd like to do that. Otherwise, it will just be floating there in the middle of your screen the entire dungeon. So this is actually a toggle to control the NPCs. It has 2 modes. It has follower mode, which essentially the NPCs will follow you as you go through the dungeon. So if you make a pull as a DPS, the tank will run in, and obviously the DPS will spring into action and things like that. This is good if you want to take it at your own pace, or if you just want to kind of stop the dungeon for a minute, the NPCs just won't continue to do the dungeon. The other mode is leading mode, and this is where the NPCs will kind of push forward in the dungeon. So if you're a DPS, the tank will just kind of run forward and start pulling, and you obviously just got to kind of follow them along like you would on a normal mode dungeon with real players. Now you're probably thinking here, could you not just wait at the beginning of the dungeon and let them clear the entire dungeon and pick up all the loot? The way that they've kind of programmed this is that you kind of have to be around them a little bit, otherwise they just won't progress in the dungeon, which is a nice little failsafe there for potential bots in the future. You'll also notice at the start of the dungeon, if you have the mage in the group, they'll spring up a little mage table, so you can pick up some food and water from that, which is really nice. You'll also notice that they won't actually click things. So for example, in Brackenhide, when you get to the cages to free the Tuskar, the NPCs won't actually click it. They will actually direct you to click it, which is kind of nice and obviously helps newer players learn the dungeon, which is always really great to see. You also see on different parts they might make a little quip or say something about the dungeon, which is always good. So obviously keep an eye on that. You can't have a conversation with them, as you'd imagine, but, you know, yeah, they do kind of come up with like random little statements here and there, which always help out during the dungeon. And if you've got one of the NPCs which can use heroism or lust, they will actually use it on some of the bosses, and not just at the start of the boss. It'll kind of use it like halfway through the boss and things like that, which is a nice little attention to detail that I really like. Also as well, speaking of attention to detail, one of the really nice things I like about it is that if you're like a DPS player and you decide to change to a tank halfway through the dungeon, you can actually do that, and a little prompt will come up saying, do you want to change the composition of the group? So yeah, you can actually switch and change roles as you like, and it will actually change the NPC bots that you're playing with, which is really cool. Also, a fun bug we found when testing this out is that when you die in the group, the NPCs will actually just straight up leave the group and rage quit on you for dying, which is so funny. They do come back when you release, obviously, so it's not really that much of a game-breaking bug, but it is really funny just to see them just all leave the group the moment you drop dead. These AI are getting so smart, really just simulating that true pug experience in World of Warcraft. So that's pretty much how the dungeon experience works. Once you get into the swing of things, it works out pretty nicely, and this is the first build of the PTR. I'm reporting on this, so things are obviously subject to change, but for the most part, it seems like it's pretty kind of set in stone how this system will work, which is cool. So let's talk about loot. Yes, this does reward loot. So the rewards you'll get from this will be normal mode dungeon loot. Now, obviously, depending on your level, from 60 to 70, the loot will scale. But at max level, it will be item level 421 as of Season 3 of Dragonflight. And this will also drop mounts and manuscripts. Now, obviously, we don't have any mounts in any of the Dragonflight dungeons, but we do have dragon riding manuscripts, which do drop. So keep an eye out for that. And no doubt this will have seasonal changes. So in Season 4 of Dragonflight, we'll probably see this loot being changed and the difficulty being changed to accommodate the new seasons. Obviously in War Within, Dragonflight becomes the new norm. So like from level 10 to 60 or 70, you'll be doing Dragonflight stuff. So we'll have to see what happens with follower dungeons with that. If we can level through them from 10 to 70 or 10 to 60, that would be an interesting experience, but that's way down the line. So yeah, there you go, guys. That is follower dungeons in 10.2.5. These are AI dungeons that you can run with wonderful players. It's a really fun feature. I've been having a great time on the PTR testing it out and bugging it out. There's definitely some issues in this early build, but of course those will be ironed out and ready for patch 10.2.5 when it releases, probably early next year, I would imagine at this point. But yes, this is a really cool first step for something that could really be awesome in the future. Things like story mode dungeons or story mode raids would be really fun to see. Running it with like big lore characters and things. I don't know. I think the tech is there, and it's definitely going to advance over the next couple builds, and we're going to see it really get into a cool feature. But essentially, yes, these are, you know, really nice kind of playgrounds to learn roles or classes that you haven't tried before. I really like it. I think it definitely has a place in World of Warcraft. I'm excited to see people trying it out and having a good time with it. So yeah, there you go, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Let me know down below what you think of follower dungeons and what you think could happen in the future with these dungeons. I'd like to know what you guys think of this feature. As mentioned, I'm a big fan, but yeah, let me know down below. If you like this video, guys, please do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you want to support me outside of YouTube, I'm also on Patreon, and I'm on Twitter at MrGMYT, and I have a partner Discord channel as well. And as mentioned, I am streaming on twitch.tv/MrGM. We've been streaming Dragonflight, Dragonflight PTR, all that good stuff, testing out the 10.2.5 PTR with the follower dungeons. It's been a lot of fun doing it with viewers and things like that. So if you want to check me out, guys, I'm over on twitch.tv/MrGM every single day. And with that, guys, I'll see you next time.